Today we're going to do a variation of the woolly bugger. This particular woolly bugger has a little bit of extra flash built into it. You can see the lateral line that extends back to the tail for flash. And there will also be a couple different tying techniques as far as the steps. That's a little different than the original woolly bugger that most of you probably learned on. Woolly bugger is a great fly. Most people learn to tie with a woolly bugger. It's usually one of the first flies people tie, but it's extremely productive. Just about any water you fish, you can usually pick up something using a bugger. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start with a extra heavy 3x long hook. I'm just stick in the vise here, and I'm going to use a 4mm bead. This is a brass bead, so we'll get it placed on the hook. Small hole first, and reorient the hook. Get back in the vise. And then we're going to use some 0.15 lead wire. We're just going to use a little piece of it, and we'll stick it right back here behind the bead, just to kind of hold the bead in place. We only need 6-7 wraps, something like that. All right. Take and squeeze that up into the bead, like so. And we can break off the rest of this. I'm going to take a pair of old scissors, and I'm just going to cut it right here. For the thread, I'm just using some 70 denier black thread. We'll get this started back behind the lead here. Make a few wraps over the lead to hold it in place. And we'll just work the thread back to where we'll secure the tail. Alright, so for the tail we're going to use some black marabou, and then for the body we're going to use some chenille, regular black chenille. The hackle, of course, is a long saddle or schlop feather. And then for the flash we're going to use this holographic flashaboo. It's 6993. I think blue goes well with the black. You know, you could tie this fly in greens and browns, and so any kind of color combination to include the flash. Something like green or olive and gold would be nice if you're out looking to imitate perch or something like that, or a small baitfish. You know, the browns with gold or some other color would be nice for some of the bigger nymphs, or for crawfish, something like that. Or even using red if you're up in the upper water column where red really shows through in the shallower waters. That would make a nice little flash too. So let's get started with the tail. These are relatively short marabou feathers, so we're just going to use the whole thing, and we'll use a little bit of tongue wax, and we'll go about the length of the shank. So right about there. Transfer that. Using a pinch wrap, we'll make 2-3 good wraps, and then we just want to work our way up and tie this down on top of the hook shank to form our underbody. That way we keep a nice smooth body. So we'll go up here right behind the bead. Cut that off, clean it up, And then we'll go back that midway point. And we can tie in our chenille. Wind this back. And bring our thread back to the front again. And we can wind this chenille body. Tight touching turns, nice smooth body. To just behind the bead eye, we'll leave just a little bit of room there to secure our feather and our flash. All right, now for the hackle feather, you see this one see the taper in it. Oh, it's nice and it's a little wider down towards this end of it here, and that's the reason. That's the main reason why I tie them in this style, where I tie the feather in at the front. A lot of people are taught, when they're first taught to tie buggers, they tie it in by the tip back here by the tail, and then wind the feather forward, and then follow it with a wire rib or something to hold it down. But by starting up here where the feather is widest, then I can control the taper. I get a nice taper on my hackle, which is easier to control starting from up here. So we'll take away this fluffy stuff that I don't want, like so. Trim that down, and then we'll just capture this. And then here behind the bead. Okay, move that out of the way. Now I'm going to take I have a single strand of flashabou that I will fold in half. Like so. Then I want to tie this in so it extends past the hook just a little bit. And I'll keep these two strands together. They're centered, like so. And then I'll come over here and tie these on the other side. Like so. Now, what I want to do is I want to keep these along the lateral line, these two strands, and I want to make open spiral wraps back the body towards the tail, like so. About 4 or 5 wraps, and just leave my thread there. I'm just going to cut this to make it a little easier. So what I want is I want the flashabou to be on the center line, so we can adjust that a little bit on both sides. So about like so. All right. And I can take my hackle pliers, connect them in here, and I want to make at least 2 full wraps in the front. I've got a long enough feather here, I can go probably 2.5. And the reason you want to make sure that you have at least 2 full wraps is you want a good solid collar. If you don't make those wraps in the front like that, you'll end up creating a corkscrew. Because you need this wall, the wall of fibers, to displace the water around the fly. If you don't have that, the water will grab and start to follow the hackle as you wound it, and then you'll end up getting the fly will just spin through the water. So it's important to get at least 2 to 3 wraps right in front. And then we'll just take and we'll follow the thread that we wrapped with our hackle with open spirals, like so. And then we'll take the thread and weave it back towards the front of the fly, weaving through the fibers, and that secures the entire feather down to the shank. And then we reach up in here, cut off our excess feather. We can grab our flash, cut it just a little bit longer than the tail. And then we can whip finish. And remove our thread. So now we have that nice flash going along the lateral line. And it's not a solid flash. You'll see that it's because of the hackle goes over it. So what you end up is like it's like dots. It's not solid like it is back here. So it gives the illusion of a little bit more illusion of movement. And the same on this side. Make sure you're on the center. This looks good. And then you can make sure that you don't have any trapped feather fibers. And then what we'll do is just come in and add a little drop of cement right here on top, kind of on the back of the bead. If you drop it right on top, it'll just flow back into the thread. And there we have a woolly bugger with a lateral line. It's just a little better bugger. The tying technique, I think, is a little simpler, easier to get a more consistent fly. I think it's more durable, and I think that added flash along the lateral line is advantageous. And I know it works. I've caught a few fish on it. So tie some of these up and go out and get you some.